Hitman is the latest movie that you can watch on Netflix, but let me tell you, this movie was not made by Netflix. That means this movie was actually premiered at some of the film festivals last year, where it got some very good response from the audience and from the critics. But let's talk about the story of this movie. It stars Glen Powell, and Glen Powell is actually a co-writer in this movie as well, and he's also a co-producer. But the name of the movie is Hitman, but it is not about a hitman. That means Glen Powell is not playing a hitman. In fact, he's playing a fake hitman. What do I mean by that? Okay, to understand this, let's play a game. Imagine I am Glen Powell. Don't laugh, I just said just imagine. Okay, just imagine I am Glen Powell. And you are my client. That means you are someone who wants to, off a certain person who is troubling you. So you want to off a certain person, and therefore you actually try to figure out which are the hitmen that can do the job for me. And then by some mechanism, some interference, you are connected to me, who is a fake hitman. But here's a twist, I am actually working with the police undercover, and I am actually mic'd up. That means all our conversations is actually being recorded by the police and actually being heard by the police simultaneously. And then my job when we meet for the first time is to take out a confession out of you that you want to off a certain person, and you are looking for a hitman, which is me. And as soon as my job of drawing out a confession out of you is done, that is the time where police actually show up and they capture you, they bust you, and that's the job of a fake hitman. But there is the other side of the story too. Me, Glen Powell, again, okay, I'm still Glen Powell. So this is not my first job. My first job, my main primary job is of a professor at a college, and my persona of a professor is completely different. That means I am a very, stereotypical professor, you could say. Comb down hair, glasses, and a very introvert kind of a guy, a very mild-mannered kind of a guy. But here's the interesting thing, my persona of being a professor is completely different from my hitman persona. And within the hitman persona as well, I do a lot of different things. For example, I change my entire persona, my entire hair, my makeup, my clothes, I change everything about me, and I just get into a different character, and my persona actually depends on the client that I am meeting. For example, there is a scene in which Glen Powell actually dresses up and behaves like Patrick Bateman. So that is my speciality. But in the movie we are shown all of these things, and kind of at the end it becomes a bit boring, it becomes a bit repetitive, because you are just constantly shown that how I change my persona, meet a different client, and that cycle just doesn't end at the right time. It just feels a bit exhausting, but then it finally ends, and that ends with a girl. And this is where the movie takes a shift from a very goofy kind of a movie to a very steamy romantic movie. So here's the thing, I meet a client who is a girl, who is a woman, who wants to off her husband, and I, being a very generous guy, because you are a girl, I try to talk you out of that situation. That means I essentially save you from getting busted, and I am doing that when I am mic'd up. So that was a risk, but I take that risk to kind of save you, because you're a girl. Now this is where things get really interesting, because now I start dating you, and this is exactly where all of these things actually bombard into each other, get intertwined into each other, because I am dating a client and there's another murder, and there are a lot of messed up things that follow after this. But this is where the entire tone of the movie again shifts, because to be really honest, there were kind of three different tones in this movie. First one was this very goofy kind of a guy. We are just learning the character, how he's actually changing his personas and all of these things. Then it gets really into a very steamy dating kind of a movie, and then all the investigation regarding a certain crime takes place, which is kind of a detective-ish kind of a movie. But mind you, all of these three phases were kind of fun. Apart from the first phase, I think first phase was becoming a bit boring for me at the end, but since the dating stuff kind of happens, it really gets interesting to know, okay, now in which direction this movie is getting, and how our main characters actually can get out of this. And now this is another main thing of this movie. As I said in the start of this video, this movie is loosely based on a certain person, and there are a lot of fictional things that they have done in this movie. So when we get at the very end of this movie, as a normal viewer, our job is to feel good when the protagonist of the movie wins, when the protagonist of the movie gets away with a certain kind of a thing, even though it may be a bad thing. As an audience, you just find it good, you just find it liberating sometimes. Okay, our protagonist is now safe. Basically, our protagonist actually won. But this is the thing of this movie. At the end of this movie, when we learn that what things that both of these characters have done, and the movie really showcases all of these things in a very nice manner. But somehow I felt bad. I mean, somehow I felt, yeah, I wanted the protagonist to win, but the way that they have did some terrible things, I don't know if they should win or not. I just don't know they should get away with this thing. So that was kind of the feeling which was left with me when I finished watching the movie. Overall, I would say it's just about a 2-hour movie. When the first act actually ends, after that the movie actually picks a pace. For that, I think 30-35 minutes you have to invest in the movie first up, and then some of the interesting things kind of happen. But here is another thing of this movie. Glen Powell's character is such kind of a character which actually changes personas, and all of them are very different personas, and they really pulled that side of things really well in this movie, because we literally see a range of different characters or different personas taken up by Glen Powell, and it was fun to watch. There are two notable characters. One is Gary, the normal guy, and one is Ron. He is completely different from Gary. Ron is just a rock star. He's smart, he's handsome, he talks in a different way, he's commanding, he's more commanding when he talks as compared to when he's Gary. So that little bit was appreciable. So yeah, that's all I want to talk about in this video. Please check out some other videos on my channel as well. I have made some really good stuff with Stranger Things series and some really good stuff on some Marvel related content as well. And if you like those videos, I request you to please subscribe to the channel as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching.